Borderline from 1950 was a fun, sometimes silly crime film taking place south of the border that starred Claire Trevor, Fred MacMurray, and Raymond Burr. It's got all those goofy story elements that make for a fun film. It's got a couple on the run, a pursuing crime boss, a hint of romance, and all along, neither of these two knowing that the other is actually an undercover cop. Will they be able to escape and make it across the border? Well, let's take a look and see. So the film opens up and we have policewoman Madeline Haley, who's played by actress Claire Trevor, who is a gorgeous actress I've seen in a bunch of other films, like the old classic John Ford film Stagecoach. And she decides to go undercover as a showgirl in Mexico. And she arrives and quickly joins in with a musical act where they sing possibly one of the most irritating songs ever. And yes, I get it. It's supposed to be this tawdry dive, and she's actually a cop. So the scene is actually kind of funny in a cringy sort of way.
I knew she never could be mine. Lips that were redder than the wine.
Well, while the musical number is going on, it's a chance for her to spy on this drug boss, Pete Ritchie. It's played here by Raymond Burr. This is the pre-Perry Mason days. And he seems disinterested in her advances as she's dancing around, but later she manages to get his henchman drunk, and that gives her an avenue to get back into his place, to snoop around, take some pictures with her mini camera, and so on. But soon enough, Pete shows up and tells his henchman to, wake up and get rid of the dame because he's passed out drunk on the couch. She's about to leave when the character Johnny Macklin is introduced. He's played here by Fred MacMurray. Now, at this point, both Johnny and Madeline think that each other are criminals, when in fact, both are undercover police. Well, there's this conflict, a fight breaks out, and in the scuffle, Madeline is forced to shoot Ritchie in self-defense, and she gets him in the arm, and Johnny leaves, taking Madeline with him, thinking that she's Ritchie's girlfriend. Now, the character Gumbin, who's played by actor Roy Roberts, is one of those character actors you see in many films. He's the boss, and he sends both of them on a drug run, but posing as a honeymooning couple. And it's here, honestly, I thought that the film started to get a little bit sillier, but hey, it's all good. So the film kind of shifts gears and becomes a couple on the run story instead. So they find a hotel, they have some dinner, and of course she's paranoid about him, but he seems to be kind of playfully going along with the role. Now, with him is their driver, Miguel, who's played by actor Jose Torve. I've seen him before in films like The Treasure of Sierra Madre. And they're not there for very long when Pete and his gang show up for revenge, and the three make a hasty escape. So they're heading out down the highway, they're driving, and they get stopped by a hay cart in the way. But wouldn't you know it, it's a trap from that evil boss, Pete. And, well, yeah, that was a little silly how he got so far ahead of them and set the trap, but well, whatever. Madeline starts this hay cart on fire, causing a distraction, there's a shootout, and they get away. But alas, poor Miguel is killed in the gunfire during the escape. So they're driving along really fast, a motorcycle cop tries to pull them over, but Johnny, not wanting to get stopped because, he's got a dead body and drugs, he stops in town and tells the cop that they have to get their sick friend to a hospital. And in this crazy rush, they manage to lose the cop, and in sort of an unceremonious way, they leave their dead friend behind, slumped against a wall like he's sleeping, and then they pick up a different drunken guy, put him in the back seat. And I know, yeah, it's done for humor, but tad dark there, Johnny. But it's enough to fool the cops, because when they get stopped again and they get questioned about their sick passenger, the cops discover he's not really sick. No enfermo, but borracho. What silliness. And they drop off the drunken guy, and they get back on the highway again, but they realize they need to ditch their car. So they push it off the side of the road, and then they get walking together to the airport. And after a break to rest, they hitch a ride with the cheerful character Porfirio, who's played by actor Nacho Galindo, who brings them back to his place to meet with his huge family and to help them with making a phone call. They finally get to the airport, and they get a flight, but wouldn't you know it, the plane runs out of gas so that they have to land on a beach somewhere. So, there's no food, Madeline's hungry, but Johnny does manage to catch a fish and roast it, and of course, as they sit by the fire, they fall in love and kiss. You knew it was going to happen. Well, finally, the characters make it to the airport hotel with plans to cross the border the next day. But remember, this means that they will have to turn the other over to the police soon. Because remember, they still think one another are criminals. So what will happen? Are they going to turn on each other? Will that sneaky Pete character show up again for revenge? Well, you're going to have to watch the end of this silly film for yourself to see. Now, some closing thoughts. I enjoyed the film. It wasn't perfect, but it's a fun little crime movie with a little bit of romance. And yes, maybe it's a little bit lower budget than some other films I've watched. You know, I never really felt like this was in Mexico at all. Rather felt like just a backlot in California somewhere. And yes, I know this is probably about 10 years before My Three Sons, but it's still hard for me to see Fred MacMurray and not think about him as Steve Douglas or character from some of those Disney movies, but he still does a great job here. And even actress Claire Trevor, who I think was about 40 years old here, kind of has more of a motherly quality to her. And I know this sounds strange, but as I'm watching this entire plight kind of felt like, you know, mom and dad out on a zany adventure, which isn't to say I didn't like the film. In fact, I really did enjoy it. And it's just not a perfect movie. And sure, there's some crazy plot holes, but just go into this and just enjoy it. And it was also great seeing Raymond Burr as this crime boss in his pre-Perry Mason days. And it's nice to see him kind of on the other side of the law as the bad guy. I think he plays a really good baddie in these films. And a final note, you'll notice towards the end of the film there's actor Charles Lane. He was from It's a Wonderful Life. He's briefly in the film as a customs agent. And it's always fun to find those, brief roles of characters like that in these old movies. Anyhow, that's Borderline. It's produced by Universal, and it was directed by William Sider. It's a fun film, and it's worth checking out.
Well, when I was in my teens, I was sent up. But I broke out within a month, and then I met Rocky.
Who was Rocky?
The only man I ever kissed. I felt so sorry seeing him lying there on the cold cement, mortally wounded.
What happened to him?
I shot him. I made sure that he'd never kiss another girl.